How you guys doing? This is Captain Spencer Clark, your Table Rock Lake guide with Breaking Bass Guide Service. We just made it through 4th of July weekend down here at Table Rock Lake. One of the busiest weekends that you can have out here on the lake. And the fishing was actually pretty good despite the amount of boat traffic and just the the craziness that ensues on a holiday weekend. So what I was going to do is give you guys a quick little fishing report on some of the things that I caught my fish on this past weekend. Had a couple really good guide trips, and we're just going to kind of go into kind of what's working right now down here at Table Rock Lake. So for the most part, what I've been targeting, with the water temperatures getting into the upper 80s right now, is a lot of brush. Most of the fish that I'm catching, they're either in or around brush piles, and these brush piles are anywhere from like 20 to 40 foot of water. It just kind of depends on the spot that I'm fishing and what exactly we're trying to catch. Some of the baits have been working real good on the bass. We've just been taking just your standard Zoom trick worm, just rigging it up on a shaky head. This is working really good. Fishing this like a drop shot over those brush piles. Something that a lot of people think is you got to throw a drop shot when you're fishing vertically, but you can actually catch a lot of fish just dropping a trick worm on a shaky head down in those deep brush piles right over the side of the boat. The other thing that's been working pretty good is your drop shot. One thing that I've been doing a little differently is been using a little red hook on here, just a little red circle hook. Seems that's helped me get a few more bites. I don't know if those fish are kind of keying in on that red like it's a gill or what down there, but just kind of going with about 1.5 feet a leader here. Just trying to keep that bait, that worm, just suspended over those brush piles a little bit. Try to keep it a little bit higher off the bottom, trying to keep it out of the wood down there a little bit more. Catching a lot of fish dropping that to those same brush piles. And when it comes to the fishing down here, for the most part, there's definitely a morning bite right now. So you can do a lot of work in the first 2 hours of the day, and then after that it gets a lot harder just because the fish right now are kind of on that nighttime feeding bite. I've been talking to a lot of my buddies down here that have been getting out fishing in the night, and they are really catching some really good fish. That is a predominant bite right now, as you know, the temperatures this week are like 103 degrees. But there's a really good morning bite. The only thing is you got to be on the right spot for that first couple hours of the day to make the most of it, because that is when they're actively feeding. And then after that, as the sun gets higher and you get more into later in the morning, it just seems like the bites are a little bit harder to come by. But that's not to say that's the case every day. It's just more often than not, the higher the sun gets, the fishing is going to get a little bit tougher, especially as the boats start to come out. So this weekend we had a couple trips. We were averaging anywhere from like 20 bass a day, catching a lot of spotted bass. Caught a lot of walleye over the past weekend too, in a lot of the same places that the spotted bass are using. And we caught some real dandies. We had a guide trip just the other day. Couple was fishing, and guy's wife caught a 7-pound walleye. That doesn't happen every single day out there, but this thing was a 27.5-inch beauty. And let's just say that they're going to have a really good fish dinner and a real good fish fry off that one fish. Some of the other things that are going to be working, I think, in the next couple of weeks here, working now a little bit, you can take a white spoon. So one of the things you can do down here at Table Rock Lake is go spooning docks. And I imagine as the water temperature continues to get hotter here, you're going to be able to start targeting a lot of those big kind of condo dock systems with just a little white War Eagle spoon. I think this is just like a 7/8. This is the size that I use mostly. And what I'm doing with the spoon is I'm spooling up with some really heavy line. So I'm going to be pitching this thing back in those wells on those boat docks. You can go at 20 to 25 pound fluorocarbon when you're doing this. And the whole trick with this is, what I like to do is, it's real easy to fish. Just get up around those docks, pitch it in the well, let that spoon go all the way to the bottom. Just let your line out, peel line out. When it gets down the bottom, just kind of give it a good rip, let it go back down again, then rip it again. And usually if they don't hit it, when you're doing that, you might as well just reel it in, go to the next well. This is a little bit more work, say, than doing the drop shotting, but it's also a fun way to catch a lot of bass, catch a lot of spotted bass doing this, and a couple good largemouth every now and then. And it's all about finding the right stall on the right dock. And most of the docks that you're going to be catching fish doing this, they're going to be closely related to the channel. So a lot of what we're catching fish on right now is closely related to the river channel. They're not pulling a whole lot of water out of Table Rock Lake, but you're going to get the most current fishing close to the channel, and that's where a lot of the fish and a lot of the bait's going to be right now. That seems to be where most of the bait is relating. So that's one thing that's going to start working here a little bit more, and I'm going to be implementing a little bit more on some of my guide trips. The other thing that's going to be coming on here is actually throwing crankbaits, deep diving crankbaits more so around the brush. So one of the things as you get into the hotter part of the year, the hotter part of summer, as you go through June into July, you kind of get away from that whole feeding bite. You know, the month of June is a month where, you know, the bass, they get done spawning. June, you get the shad spawn. The fish are starting to make their way out to those deep water summertime spots, and they're actively feeding up. The water temperature is still in a good range to where, you know, the bass, they're eating, you know, constantly. As you get into July and August, a lot of times you don't get as much rain, and there's just not a whole lot of current going through the lake. So, you know, these fish are going to get set up on brush piles a little bit deeper. And one of the things you can do is start trying to figure out how to trigger those reaction bites. So like for me, like the month of, you know, July and August, it gets to be a little bit more about trying to make fish react that really aren't feeding, because a lot of times they're not feeding unless you're fishing in the night down here at Table Rock Lake. So a lot of the tactics I'm doing have to do with putting a bait in and out of the strike zone really quick, trying to get that reaction bite, making those fish either have to go and eat the bait or let it go by. And that's kind of the same thing with the spoon. You know, you're putting it in there and you're ripping it out. But that crankbait, that's going to be a big thing going forward. Eventually here, we're going to get a thermocline. It's going to start to set up. I've been seeing a thermocline set up a little bit in some of the places that I'm fishing. And once that thermocline starts to set up around that, you know, 25, 30 foot mark, like it usually does down here, that crankbait is going to become a lot bigger factor because you get a big deep diving crankbait, it's going to target that zone really well. So anyways, guys, that's kind of, you know, some of the things that I'm focusing on right now for the bite down here at Table Rock Lake. This weekend, I'm available for guide trips. If you're looking for a guide, reach out to me. I'd like to get you out on Table Rock Lake. Check out Spencer Clark Fishing, Breaking Bass Guide Service. You can just follow some of the trips we've been having lately. Been catching a lot of fish. Things are going to be getting a little bit tougher as we get into July. You're going to have to work a little bit harder for those bites, but the fishing should continue to remain pretty good from now all the way into August. So if you're coming to Table Rock Lake looking for a guide, reach out to me. My cell is just 314-562-3332. Love to get you out on Table Rock Lake. Let's go catch some fish. Until next time, guys, take it easy and good fishing.